Okay. Good morning, everyone. It's Tuesday, May 12th, and I'm happy that you could be with me here today at the Boulevard Realty Weekly Check-In on the state of the real estate market. For those of you that are here for the first time, please feel free to look back on our previous weeks. I don't often just recap the exact same thing over and over again. I'm trying to provide new information, that would be relevant to this week and the state of the real estate market. So this week will be briefer than many of the others because I've been in depth for a number of different topics over the last couple of weeks. So I encourage you to go back to our website and watch the previous weeks, especially if you'd like an overview of the entire region and what's happening in real estate overall. For us, we're like many other industries. Slowly, the world and the nation and the state and the city are gradually reopening. Of course, I want to reemphasize, as I do every week, the safety, care, concern, and health of everyone, of our agents and our staff and our clients and the general public is always going to be foremost on our minds. But like many other industries, I think we probably need to start some forward momentum, and you're going to see the gradual reopening. And it's not going back to the way things were because there is no sort of new normal. There's a new day today, and it may be completely different next week. And we're just part of increasing changes of a worldwide economy. So we're beginning this gradual thing. If you've been watching, you'll see the most important change, of course, is in my haircut that I was able to get this last week. And I'm an individual that likes a haircut. If I had my druthers, I would get a haircut every week, but I find people think that I'm narcissistic and compulsive behavior if I do that. And so I don't get a weekly haircut, but I enjoyed the haircut that I had this week and was glad that I could get back to some form of normalcy just with a haircut. That small little deal kind of helped motivate me to do some other things. And I'm hoping that you can find your motivation to reset and renew yourself as we gradually begin this reopening of our economy. Using caution and concern, of course. We are going, we're pretty much in the same standard at Boulevard Realty. We're remotely working for the most part, but we are going to open our office to the public next Monday. It's not going to be like it was before. We're not going to have the exact same number of staff crowded over in here, but we're going to open to the public and keep more regular hours, 8 to 5, 7 days a week, practicing a lot of social distancing and a lot of cleanliness, a lot of sanitary motions and movements. And so we encourage you to stay home if you can, but if you need something from Boulevard Realty, we're going to be open and we're going to be available to help in an even better method than we have been in the past. So it's not the new normal, it's just forward momentum. And that's what I'd like for us to just kind of ease our way back in there. Today, we're going to talk about the state of the market, and the MLS statistics are not out to the public. They'll be released tomorrow. And I had been going down a path about headlines. What would the headlines say? And we are inundated with a fair number of different headlines about the economy and real estate and jobs and oil and the future. And last week we talked about the cup being half full or half open. And it is hard to digest what the headlines mean. And I'm not in the marketing department for the Houston Association of Realtors, but this is basically what it's going to say. Sales for the month of April were off about 19% in the single family housing market. And I think most of us are happy that it's only 19%, and we're surprised that it wasn't significantly worse than that. It's not good, but it was not nearly as bad as it could have been, or that what most people were thinking. And prices, for the most part, remained steady. There was no great price reductions in the month of April. So the median price is going to be statistically the same, and the average price is statistically the same. And then, of course, what we've been talking about, the major factor of our industry is going to be supply and demand. We have a shortage of inventory. So the overall MLS statistics is going to show about a 3.6 month of inventory. In a normal world, that would mean that that's a seller's market. We're realistic in a pandemic. Even with 3.6 months of inventory, it is still very much a buyer's market because of just the level of negotiations that you're having to have. But the reality of what is selling is good, nice houses that are selling for near their list price. In many instances, it's over the list price. It's certainly not a steep discount of pricing. Doesn't mean that there's not going to be some segments of the area that are going to be facing a steep decline of prices, but those properties just are not selling now. In order to sell, maybe they will have to discount rapidly, but what people want to buy today and what they bought in the month of April and statistically for the month of March was really nice houses in really nice neighborhoods at a price point that was near the list price, if not over the list price. I mean, we're still averaging in the inner loop areas 99.5% list price to sales price for the most part of what's selling. Now, you could take off extremes at either end, some that were in bidding wars and some that had discounts, but I'm just talking about the average price. But what you're also seeing is housing and what is for the general population a lower price point. Homes below 500,000, homes from 200 to 250 or 200 to 279. Those homes have been moving remarkably well. And you would think that that segment would probably be overly impacted by the price of oil or the economy. But in Pearland, in Cinco Ranch, in Sugar Land, you're seeing rapid movement, subdivisions with 30 houses for sale, but 25 of them under contract, and under contract within 2 to 3 weeks, closing in a reasonable time frame. I've been watching that market pretty heavily. It's not a market that I particularly am spending a lot of time showing houses in, but plenty of the staff members and agents are doing so, and it's been moving better than you would think there. So in the suburbs, that's a pretty good sweet spot. In the inner loop, the $500,000 to $995,000 market is still doing just fine. You pop on a house for $779. Within a week, you have an offer or two or three. Had a great experience. Kenny's listing on Columbia, Drew's listing on Baylen, in this high $800,000 price range, got under contract relatively rapidly with a number of different offers to choose from. And so I think that's market is doing particularly well also. And then the higher end of market, over $1 million, whether that's $1,350,000 in the Heights or $2 million in Memorial. The reality of it is the only thing that is really selling and really offering the greatest amount of movement is brand new housing. New housing is still selling, at list price or maybe $10,000 off. They're not having to offer any great significant discounts in the new home market for the most part. In the an MLS meeting I was in earlier this week, I mean, it's interesting to see the number of houses there's a perception new houses are cleaner, they're safer, they don't have the same issues that maybe an occupied house would have. And so there's just a mindset that newer is better. Of course, it's shinier, it's prettier, it's often really what people were looking for before the pandemic, but it's certainly, and of course it's easier to show. New houses, vacant houses are easier to show than occupied houses, and they have been moving pretty well at every price point there. So it's just kind of interesting to see versus the occupied houses. Now, many occupied houses are 10 and 20 and 30 years old, and some of them are in need of updating, and those houses are struggling. There's just no doubt that's not necessarily the preference of the buyers at this particular moment. People with money, people who are more confident in the economy, really don't want to take on a project. They have money, but they don't have time. They're not willing to offer $100,000 less and take on a $100,000 project, even though that might be more cost effective. That's really not what they choose to buy. They choose to buy the brand new house and, have their decorator install blinds and, the furniture and move in and have a party. But it's just really, that's what's been selling. So if you have a house and it's been on the market for, more than 30 days now, or 60 days or 90 days, you're going to have to offer some sort of refresher in order to get attention back to that deal. Like all industries, we're seeing really the movement to the virtual and digital world, and it will be interesting to see how much of that stays as a part of our industry. I am a realist. I believe much of the situation that we're in is a long-term situation. I don't anticipate rapid changes in behavior or the way that we're doing things in anytime soon. So I'm going to make the assumption that we're going to have to practice social distancing, and we're going to be impacted by this virus until the vaccine is really both available and out there, and that's probably a year, could be 2 years. I don't really know, but it's certainly not going to be July, we're all back to normal sort of thing. So you're going to have ebbs and flows, and you're just going to have to, pay attention every week of what's happening into the marketplace, whatever. So we're seeing more and more digital, which the real impact of that is now we're inundated with digital. For me, I'm an average person that usually gets probably 600 or 700 emails a day in a typical month. Now I'm getting probably 1,000 to 1,500 emails a day. And when you're inundated with that much information, I mean, it's information overload. I consider it to be digital overload. I'd really like to just shut off the computer, except then I'll have 3,000 emails to weed through tomorrow. And so it's just easier to weed through 100 an hour. But when you're inundated with that many images, that much information, it's hard to stand out. So while virtual showings and 360 tours and 3D tours and virtual open houses are all going to be part of the way that we sell real estate for an extended period of time, I do believe that you're going to have to find some way to differentiate yourself. I've been trying to give the lesson, if they just photograph clothes in a white background, you would not really pay attention to that dress or that suit or that tie. If you put it on a really attractive person and they're on a camel or at the beach or in Vancouver or in Monte Carlo, it's an image that you're getting about those clothes and how they're going to make you feel. And food's about the same way. You don't look at a bunch of food just in a white, on a green board. You're looking at it in a setting, in the sunset, in a festive environment, with a bunch of people enjoying themselves, with wine flowing or music in the background. It's an experience. And so I think for housing, one of the messages I'm trying to get across to the basic agent that is going to be a new phenomenon, I think, for especially homeowners that aren't really kind of used to this, is more lifestyle photography, more personal experiences. Instead of photographing the kitchen, photograph the people using the kitchen, preparing a meal, sitting at the island, drinking wine with their friends. Instead of showing the backyard, show the kids playing in the backyard, show the family or friends in the swimming pool, show people climbing a tree, show people sitting in the yard in their lounge chairs, social distancing with their neighbors across the street. Some type of more personalized experience is really going to be, I think, important to setting people apart and setting your home apart from others. So you're going to have to show people, how do you use the office? You can office in 7 different rooms of the home. And so I think you're going to have to take these experiences and differentiate yourself from the others, separate yourself from the pack, and make it more personalized, more testimonials. And we're not used to seeing this in real estate, but I think you're going to see it, and you're going to see it at Boulevard Realty. Video the homeowner what they love about the house. Have them talking there with you. Have them interacting in the experience of selling the home. If they don't like doing that, they can hire an actor to portray themselves, and put a little disclaimer there. But I think you're going to have to differentiate yourself and make these experiences more real, more realistic, more personalized in order to set yourself apart. If I get one more email from a listing with just some 3D drone taking a photo and going room to room to room, I don't believe all that photography. I believe it's manipulated, so I don't consider it to be realistic. And I rather would see the environment be a little more realistic as you're seeing things there. So the virtual, I think you're going to see the next step of virtual reality in homes is, like I say, maybe we're not as beautiful as the models, and maybe it's not as crisp as having no one there, but a dog playing in the background is probably going to be more interesting. Running through a house, kids playing in their bedroom, or families hanging out in the great room, that kind of differential photography and experience, I think, is going to be important as we get past this next level. So we're going to see more open houses. They're not going to be public houses listed on HAR.com again this week. It probably will. The goal was in phase 2, when the governor reopens the next phase, that public open houses would be available again. And I don't know that we're going to rush right over here at Boulevard Realty and have a lot of open houses, because I believe we still need to be extremely cautious about the safety and security of the people, and crowd control is probably going to be the #1 issue when it comes to having these open houses. So we're having to establish new procedures of open houses, maybe where the realtor is really just at the front door in the front yard, and you're letting 2 people at a time into the home, and you're having to mark out onto the sidewalks or into the yard, or provide 10 chairs in the yard for people to wait 10 feet apart from one another. So establishing some procedure of open houses, but we just can't open a house and have the realtor sitting in the kitchen with the sign-in sheet and allow 20 and 30 people to meander in and be too close to one another. So you're going to see some cautionary procedures put in place for these open houses as we ease back into them. And I think you're going to see briefer open houses. Instead of, from 1 to 5, you're going to have 30 and 45-minute open houses, and then you're going to have appointments scheduled, every 30 minutes thereafter, so that we can continue to have a safe environment to show homes, and safe for the consumer who's going to be in the home. So new open house procedures, I think, will be coming down the path pretty quickly. If you're a seller, what do I say to sellers today? So it's the same sort of thing. If you are thinking about selling, I think it's probably a pretty good time to put your home on the market. I think the spring selling season is going to be delayed into this summer. And, is this the right time for you? It's a good time to sell a good house. The inventory is just so low, your home would get recognition. There are buyers out there. There are still people moving to Houston, Texas. We're not losing population, as I've mentioned in my previous weeks. And so it's probably a pretty good time, but I would look at the micro market. I mean, that's the most important thing. Get with your realtor and see how many homes zoned to Travis Elementary in my price range are there? How many homes zoned to River Oaks Elementary? How many homes zoned to Bel Air High School are there? Or how many particular listings are there? And that would probably determine the best time to list a home. But overall, it's probably time for us to bump up the inventory just a little bit. When I look at the hits, going back to the comments, and I'm not good at all the sharing stuff, so I don't know that I'm going to, but overall, the hits on HAR.com are at an all-time high. Okay. In the middle of an oil debacle and a pandemic, there are plenty of people sitting at home with not much else to do but look at HAR.com. That is just an indication of people who have some pent-up demand, who are going to want to be into the housing market. Maybe they're looking to see what their house is worth. They're not all looking to buy a house. Some of them are looking just for decorating ideas because they're redoing their kitchen backsplash or their office. But at least it's an indication. Even for Boulevard Realty, we have fewer listings than we had 1 year ago, but the number of hits on our website this week was 35,000. Last year at this time, it was 16,000. If you listened to me last week, the week before, we had 25,000 hits to the website. So this week, 35,000 hits, okay? That's a pretty good increase from 25,000 to 35,000 in a 7-day time period. And there again, reflecting back a year, you're talking about almost double the number of hits today with fewer choices for people to look at. And I think it's just that indication that people want to know what's going on in real estate. They want to know what's happening. Many of those people are looking to buy a home and cannot find a home that they want to buy. And like I say, the inventory continues to be low in almost all of the areas. I'm not talking about the townhouse market. I'm not talking about the high-rise market. I'm just talking about the single-family housing market in markets like Heights, Montrose, Westview, Memorial, those sort of areas. So I consider, the basic headline, down, but not as bad as you would think. And that is the positive spin. If you're only off 20% in the middle of a pandemic, I'd say that's pretty damn good. Most businesses would be very happy to only be down 19%, especially for the month of April. As a whole. So I think I see no way that sales are going to exceed what they were last year. I'm realist. It's the number of sales is going to be down. So long as the inventory stays down and the market stays balanced, that's probably healthy for both groups. No one, we have this conversation, I don't think anyone wants to buy a house thinking that the housing market's going to shit. So nobody wants to buy a house for $500,000 if they think that it's going to be worth $400,000 6 months from now, okay? You should just get out of the market. If that's your assumption, which you may be right and I may be wrong because I can't predict the future, but I don't personally believe that. And so that's why I think it's still a good time to buy a house. You're competing with less people. And so you're not necessarily in a bidding war, and you have this opportunity with very low interest rates and I think sellers are having to be more realistic than ever on repairs and, little bitty things that they're just not able to be as arrogant as they would have been if we were at an all-time high of sales and pricing and everything. So it's a balancing act there. And so the balance can be good for both sides. If one side is really feeling taken advantage of, nobody really feels good about it in the end. So I think for sellers, if you've been on the market for a while and you haven't gotten the result that you had expected, I think you have to do something. I think continuing to do the same thing is not probably very wise advice at all. So the sage advice that I'm saying is do something. It wouldn't matter. Pull it off, re-enter it, change the photography, change the wording. Don't just do traditional photography or 3Ds. Do these personalized stories. Try and market what's best about that home. What are the features that would choose someone else to choose your home over something else? It's a competition, much like a Texan game or an Astros game. Why would your house be the one someone would choose over someone else? And I think the sellers are going to have to partner with their real estate advisor to go and make some of those determinations and look to the realtor to give some advice and think outside the box. You can't just keep doing the exact same thing. So doing something different, and maybe it's remodeling, it's staging, it's more interactive, it's repositioning its price. It's something that you have to do, because I think otherwise people will wait for the new listing, they will buy it, and you will continue to sit there. It's kind of like the steak on the shelf of the grocery store. It isn't better because it's been there 30 days, I can assure you. Even if you lower the price a little, they're just going to choose the brand new steak at the higher price. So you got to think about the housing market is almost the same thing. It's a commodity, and you got to reposition the commodity based on what the consumer is willing to pay for. And so highlighting those things that differentiate it is probably the most important thing. So I think overall, good time to list a house. I think we're going to continue to see pretty good sales. It's going to be soft in some markets. I mean, I'm totally realistic. There are going to be segments of our economy that are more greatly impacted by oil and gas than others are. So I don't want to be insensitive to that at all. I never want to say it's a booming time in real estate, because it isn't booming. It's not as bad as you think it should be. And it still remains moderately balanced in our region. And so I think you'll continue to see some highlights, but don't let the headlines, often the headlines are behind. They're a month or two behind, or they're misleading, or they're generalizations that would not necessarily apply to the entire market. Remember, on HAR.com, you're having houses from Galveston to College Station in those statistics as well. So you've got to really delve down into your particular numbers to look and see what's going on. But I think I can be realistic. It's better than you would think it would be. And people continue to look at houses. They certainly, I can prove to you that they're looking at them electronically, even though they're not able to make as many showings as they would before. And if that's that's the good news we'll take. I mean, look for the glimmer of hope, and the glimmer of hope is the high number of people who are looking at HAR.com or particular websites, giving us an indication that there is some pent-up demand as we gradually reopen our economy and our situations. So I hope that you all are taking whatever precautions you feel are safest for you, and we're going to continue to do the same thing here at Boulevard Realty. We delve into these numbers really on a daily basis. And so if you need more individualized attention, please reach out to your agent, or your agent and myself can have a Zoom to look at particular information. But if your house didn't sell 6 months ago, doesn't mean that it's not going to sell tomorrow, but you're going to have to do something slightly different, I think, in order to get it to sell. So agents, think outside the box. Buyers, get ready, because there's going to be a little more inventory. We thank you for your patience. If you've been frustrated because what you wanted hasn't been available or you haven't been able to get it, I think you're going to see an increase of inventory and a slight uptick in sales compared to April. As we add more houses, you can sell more houses. I tell people all the time, if you only have 10 widgets, you can only sell 10 widgets. If you have 20 and you sell 12, that's still better than if you only sold the 10 that you had. So the inventory will increase, which will give people more opportunities to buy a home. I don't think you're going to have a flood on the market like we did in the 80s or something of that situation, but you're going to see nice houses continue to sell in markets that are more walkable, more desirable. That's where people are going to want to be. And so I think we've all learned lessons sitting at home more than ever. We found just like relationships, many people are going to get a divorce because they figured out they don't want to be quarantined with this individual anymore. They can't wait for their spouse to get back to work. Houses are about the same way. We learned what we really love most about our homes, and many people feel like in a changing economy and changing dynamics, how we're going to do things, maybe this isn't the home that I really want to be in anymore. And there's different qualities that you are going to want to see as you homeschool your children months at a time, maybe for the next year or two, or you work from home more than ever. So how your home makes you feel while you're working, where your home is in proximity to the things that you want to do, how you enjoy the outdoor spaces, whether that's from the 3rd floor of your townhouse or on the 20th floor of a high rise. Those sort of things, those experiences are probably more and more important than they ever have been before. So we'll continue to look at the numbers, look for the headlines as they release the statistics tomorrow, look and see what the Chronicle has to say about it. I'm not really sure, but I do know that the numbers are better than you would think. And the indications are that we're going to get through this. It's not going to be a high year, but it's not going to be near the low that you might assume during what is a truly horrific pandemic. So stay strong out there, stay safe out there, and we welcome you to come back and participate with Boulevard Realty as we gradually open back our office. Hope you have a great day. Aaron, are there any questions that anyone had today? On the market, I think I've covered it. I don't think any of us can predict where we're going to be 6 months down the road or a year from now. My basic assumption is that many of these oil and gas jobs are gone forever, and they're not going to be able to get the exact same job. I think there'll be new industries and be new opportunities for people, but I personally do not believe that the population of Houston, Texas is going to decline. I don't think people are going to load up in their U-Haul and drive to wherever. I mean, they're not going to Marfa to retire because they don't have enough money anymore to go retire in Marfa. So I believe the population will continue to generally increase in Houston. I think it's a good climate in which to work. I was texting back with the mayor yesterday. I mean, jump on this Elon Musk thing or whatever and get these Teslas built right over here in the suburbs, and we can bring a lot of jobs to Houston, Texas, if they are not in an environment in California or New York that's conducive to them anymore. So the city's got to look for its opportunities to continue to attract people. people means that you're going to sell or rent more homes. May not sell the most expensive homes, but you're going to generally continue to see the housing stocks, I believe, remain relatively balanced. The inventory is going to go up, and as it goes up, prices are probably going to soften a little bit more. So I think people need to be realistic. I talk about, particular lots. Well, if they were $4.50 for a lot, and when oil's at $60 a barrel, it's probably $4.25 today. Be realistic. Oil's at $24 a barrel. It's not at 60. So some prices will be softer. It's not the time to push the market. Nice houses are going to sell. I don't know at what price point they're going to sell at, but I believe you're going to see a continuing trend that people will buy down. They're not going to buy ahead. If they were in the $1.5 million market 2 years ago, maybe they're going to be in the $1.15 million market today. And if they were in the $1.3 million market, maybe they're now going to be in the $850,000 market. So I think people will be moderately more conservative, but you can get bigger house with a cheaper interest rate than you could. So maybe your payment's pretty good for the house that you're buying because interest rates are at historic lows. So I think overall, I think the energy corridor is going to be a little soft. I think you're going to see some softening of some areas. Older homes still going to be a little harder to sell. Townhouse market might be a little saturated. Those are often first-time home buyers who may not have the same down payment that is going to be required if the economy restricts to some degree. So there's going to be some softening. There's going to be no doubt about it. But I think overall, it's not a time to panic. I see it being relatively stable. As regards to the agents, if you're not rethinking innovation, if you're not rethinking how you're connecting on a more personalized basis with individuals, and I'm experiencing this all the time. If I get brownies delivered to me from M. Penner when you can't shop at M. Penner, I'm going to remember when it's time to shop that they shipped me homemade brownies, right? The personal cards, the check-ins. I received plenty of gifts from title companies. I'm sure they're not supposed to give me more than $50. So I'm not trying to get anyone in trouble, but they have plenty of time now to personally connect with individuals, and people are going to want to do business with those personal connections. So I think you've got to find a way. We've challenged our agents. If you're not handwriting notes to everyone that ever bought a house from you, if you're not handwriting a note to anyone that looked at a house, that's in the housing market, you're not reaching out to your past clients, you're going to get dumped because they're getting touched by someone else, I assure you. And just as much as we're going to want to support local, we're going to try and support these restaurants as much as we can and small businesses, because we know they're not going to be here if we don't support them. People, when it's time to be in real estate, are going to do business with people who have a personalized connection. And like I said, I'm the least digital person out there. I hate these stupid Zoom meetings. I'll be honest with you. I would rather you be in person with me, and I'd rather have more bodily movements and see your face and answer your questions and see the reactions. I don't like this digital thing. I want to connect with people. I want to meet in person for my planning commissions. I want my sales agents to meet live, but this is not the time to do that. It's not in their best interest for health. And so we can't do that. So we're having to have a way to make it more real than ever. So sometimes, when I was doing some of these other deals, I don't always shower before I take these little Zoom meetings. And look, I'm wearing shorts right now, but I'm not that dressed up. I wore pants for the 4th time in 9 weeks last night. So we're all adapting a little bit here, but keeping it real. I'm trying to even take the houses. Quit making them look so pristine all the time. They don't look real. They don't look like something that's even, it's not attractive anymore to be sterile. So like I say, one more flyover drone from some $2 million house with, Mozart playing in the background of some idealistic sort of photography is not what I'm looking for. I really want to know, how the hell does it work when there's a party of 12 people in the kitchen? You know, how is the island really conducive to sitting around there with my next door neighbor when I get a chance to have wine with them again? You know, is the pool really great for volleyball? Show me that it's great for water volleyball. Have a little more personalized deal. We used to have this deal that we sell a lot of houses on adjacent to the railroad tracks. Remember, it's Houston, Texas. There's a lot of railroads. And someone lives in that house adjacent to the railroad, and they chose it because it was by the railroad. Maybe because it was $50,000 cheaper not being on the railroad, but there's something about it. So if you want to sell a house on the railroad, you have to have that owner sit and write a personalized letter about what is amazing about being on the railroad. The sound of it is something that is soothing to you. It reminds you of your grandpa or a trip you took or something, or you'll never, it's the fear of the railroad that keeps people from buying houses on railroads, right? Can't sleep, it's noisy, it's gonna interrupt everything that I'm ever gonna do. The only way to get around that is to face it head on and say, yeah, the railroad's here, it's in a quiet zone, it never has bothered us, it's whatever it is, face it head on and make it more personalized. I think that's really what's important for real estate agents today in order to do. I mean, I think you're gonna, like I say, you're gonna have a different open house experience. You're gonna let them meander a little bit amongst themselves, and then you're gonna come out, you're gonna chit chat and talk about it, and you're gonna be more realistic. Were there features you really liked about this house? What were features you didn't like about the house? And then you say, well, I really needed a larger master bedroom. You're going to tell them, yeah, that's around the corner. It's Amanda Anhorn's listing on Herkimer, da, 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 da. And people are going to want to do business with people like that. So I think as personalized as you can make it, show with your dog. I used to take my children with me all the time. And believe me, my longest clients, the Iberas, Julie Finch, Margot Perez, and Susan, Ginger and Richard went with me every one of those showings. Every time they bought a house, every time we went to an inspection, I took my kids with me because, hell, I didn't have any money to pay for childcare. You know what it did? Created long-lasting, amazing relationships with people who wanted to do business with me. I don't have to keep my kids at home in order to show houses. Maybe I want to show with my dog. My daughter loves everyone else's dogs. When we're out walking, you know what she wants to do? Go pet every dog that she sees. It's a personalized experience. Make this time, it's going to be about quality, not quantity. It's going to be about experiences, personalized experiences. Same thing. I'm going to go eat at the restaurants where I feel like I can have the best experience. I can eat great meals at home. I can eat great meals anywhere. You know what I want? Interaction and experience. I want to sit outside at Tiny Boxwoods. I want to see the grass. I want to see the trees move. I want that to be part of my experience. That's what I'm paying for, not $26 red snapper. I'm paying for the experience. Real estate is an experience. And so people need to foster an experience that sets themselves apart. And that's why I say, don't try and be like every other realtor. We're telling our agents, go film yourself in front of a house. If you cannot film yourself for a 60-second commercial talking about a house in, like I say, don't need great hair and great makeup, and I don't want it to look too fake. I want you out with your little cell phone talking about a house and why this is a great house. They can look on their own app and tell me it's 3,000 square feet with a master bedroom down for $500,000. They don't need me for that. They don't need any real estate agent for that. They need to explain something else that they couldn't get from their app, because given their choice, they would not interact with an individual. So if you want them to interact with you, you're going to have to make it more personalized about it. You're going to have to personalize yourself. You're going to have to personalize each of your listings, treat it as an asset, and sell the asset. Quit providing information. We're on information overload. It isn't the information, it's the experience. Get it? This is really what I think we're selling, is some experience in that particular home or that neighborhood. It could just be the amazing art. You know, talk about the sculpture at Stude Park, talk about True North on Heights Boulevard, talk about the local art at the library or the 14 different art galleries that are open on every other Thursday night. It's the experience. The little bitty G Gallery on 10th Street between Columbia and Arlington. That's what you're selling, folks. Believe me, otherwise you are irrelevant when it comes to selling houses today. So make yourself relevant by talking about these experiences and giving people a more realistic experience. And I know these sellers are going to be uncomfortable, but that's what's going to sell a house. Having the seller in a photograph or having the seller talk about what they love about that house, making the experience more real, I think is really going to be where you're seeing people. I mean, it's kind of like I say, you know, these magazines, we just used to flip through them. Now you're getting them electronically, and you're just going to hit the little link and you're going to see the Disney cruise in action. You're going to see the video. It's not just the one-dimensional page on your screen. It's what you can interact on that screen in order to make that experience of advertising more effective. And so housing is going to be the same way, like I say, because there's 40,000 realtors and 120,000 houses or whatever. Set yourself apart by making that an individual, more unique experience. That's what we're selling, the experience and the lifestyle, not just the attributes. So did I answer that question, Aaron? Long-winded there. Any other questions? I mean, I think the number of delinquent mortgages are somewhat misleading as a headline. I think many people are looking at their options. You know, even in retail or even in my experience, all of us want to save as much cash as we can because of the unknown. So if given the opportunity to defer your house payment or defer your car payment or defer your health insurance payment just to make sure that it doesn't get worse 3 months down the road or 6 months from now, many people are taking that option. So the numbers say, okay, well, I didn't pay, but it doesn't mean that it isn't totally indicative that they can't pay. It's that they're choosing an option that is available to people without any penalty. It's kind of like wearing the mask or not. You know, you're not going to wear the mask if there's no penalty to not wear the mask. And some people are going to wear them because they want to, but you can't make everyone else if there's absolutely no penalty. If there's no penalty to not reopening, then the barbershop and the bowling alley and the movie theater will just open, because why the hell not if they want to? So we were already facing some mortgage crisis, some foreclosures, especially of flooded homes. You're really getting the impact of Harvey 2.5 years later. Someone bought a flooded house, someone remodeled a flooded house, someone's still trying to sell that remodeled house, and they should never have remodeled it, okay? So you're seeing foreclosures into those areas. You're seeing some stress of that marketplace. You're gonna see a fair amount of forbearance. You're gonna see some amount of delinquency until there's more certainty, until the economy revs back up. People still, I mean, there's a huge number of people. 50% of the restaurants are not open. That's 50% of the restaurant owners, managers, busboys, waiters, suppliers of groceries are still impacted by that, right? So let's open a little bit more and give these people an opportunity to generate a little more revenue. And if they have options, I think they're going to take these options. So we're not going to be, I think lenders today are going to have to add 6 more months to the mortgage for these people that are going to need a break. And I think that's what you're going to see do it. They're sure as hell not going to be in any hurry to foreclose on a bunch of houses, nor do they really want to foreclose on a bunch of these businesses. Every day, Stages filed for bankruptcy yesterday, and J. Crew filed for bankruptcy, and Neiman Marcus filed for bankruptcy. And you know what they're going to do? reopen the next day and sell something the next day, and it gives them the opportunity to renegotiate their debt. Mortgage, and believe me, those lenders do not want to foreclose and start running Neiman Marcus. They don't, but they lend money to Neiman Marcus because they consider it to be a viable, long-term, good investment. And mortgages are going to be the same way. And I was talking to friends yesterday about the difference in 2008, versus today, is that we learned what we did in 2008 by foreclosing on a lot of houses just hurt. All it did for Chase Bank was hurt the value of assets held by Chase Bank. So there was no incentive in reality for Chase Bank to go foreclose. They ought to find a way to extend the payment, make it more affordable, move the 6 months to the end. That's in Chase Bank's best interest, and it's in everyone's best interest. It's in the next door neighbor's best interest. It's in the city's best interest. It's in the nation's best interest. So I don't think you're going to see the mad rush to want to go foreclose on a lot of these things. You're going to get to look at what options are available to businesses, to restaurants, to retail shops, and to the mortgages, and be able to adjust accordingly. And so I don't personally see a big amount of foreclosures or mortgage coming down the path anytime soon in Houston, Texas. Is it going to hurt somewhere in the nation? Sure. But I mean, a lot of that's just, some states haven't reopened at all. So of course, those people are going to be in more difficult situation than people in the Heights or people in the Woodlands. Anything else? Okay, thank you everyone. I appreciate you being here and look forward to visiting with you again next Tuesday. Hope you have a great week. Be safe out there.